Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. You know how much I appreciate your support. So let's get started. So this is a pumpkin I bought at Dollar Tree last fall, and it was in the $5 section. And I'm painting it with Waverly Ballet Slipper Pink. Next, I'm using the IOD mold, Acanthus. I hope I said that right. And I'm using air dry clay. Now, if you've not used a mold before, it's really important that you put cornstarch in the mold before you put the clay in so that it won't stick and it releases a lot easier. And the IOD molds have that little micro rim around the edge. And so you just take that air dry clay and push it into the mold. But then I like to use like an old gift card or a credit card and scrape it down so that it's flat on the bottom. And then I'm going to put it on the mold, and then it's going to fall off. And so I've got the 4 different pieces on it. But before I start painting them, I put painter's tape on them just for a little bit until that glue sets up. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint those 4 pieces pink. And it looks really dark there, and let me tell you why. One of my light rings, it was flickering, and I had to use an extra light, so there's going to be a lot of shadows in some parts of this video today, so I apologize for that. Now, the next part of this project, I'm using the IOD Frames mold, and it's just one that I've already kind of made up and I keep because I use these molds a lot. And I'm just using some rice paper and I'm decoupaging it onto the center of that little frame with DIY liquid patina. Okay, now I'm using the IOD Baubles mold. It came out this past Christmas. And I'm using Amazing Casting Resin. And it comes in the purple box and it sets up in 10 minutes. And when you make them and they dry, they are white. Now, I have already made 3 of them, and they're sitting off to the right. And I let them sit there just for a little bit because I wanted to make sure they were real firm. So I'm now mixing up some more resin, and it's a mixture of equal parts. There's a bottle that says Part A and a bottle that says Part B. And when you mix it up, you stir it up, but you need to be ready to use it right then. And I'm pouring it now into the same mold that I used before. But this time, when I pour it in, I don't pour it all the way to the top of the mold. Because now what I'm doing is I'm taking that mold that matches it, that had been sitting over on the right, and I'm laying that on top of that resin that I just poured in. So if you pour that resin all the way to the top, it's going to kind of squish out on the sides. But if you do, just get you like a little cotton swab and kind of dab at it. And I'm going to be doing that for all 3 of those molds. And then what I like to do is I just kind of like to keep my fingers on them for just a little bit to make sure that they kind of set up together. And then you're going to have some double-sided baubles. And then, oh, I can't wait for you to see what I use them for. But this is a Christmas mold. But you'll be surprised how many times that you can use it when it's not Christmas time. So I'm just kind of keeping my finger on them, making sure that they are connecting to that resin that I just poured in, but also making sure that it doesn't squish out on the side. So I hope I explained all of that the right way. Okay, and here's the final result. The little plastic stem that came with the pumpkin, I took it out and I used one of the bauble molds as the stem. And I put some lace up there, and the little frame that I decoupaged hangs from the stem. Isn't that a neat idea? Now, the next piece is just a small thing that you can use, and you can use it as something that you put a gift card in. But really, all it is a toilet paper roll, and I just kind of smushed it flat and I'm decoupaging this napkin on it with DIY liquid patina. And I'm using a napkin that's got little pink pumpkins on it. And I just put some on the front and on the back. And this is something that you could use to maybe hang on a light switch, on a lamp, or you could use it if you were going to be giving a gift card to somebody. So I've just decoupaged it on both sides, and I punched a hole on either side up at the top. And I'm taking some just skinny white lace, and I'm tying a little hanger on it. And then once I get it all tied, then what I do is I just take some pretty white lace, and I just hot glue it down to the bottom so it has a pretty edge to it. And this is a low temperature glue gun, so I'm not burning my finger. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take some more of that lace and tie like a little shoestring bow and glue that to the front of it. And then because the part of the lace that I tied for the little hanger, you've got the little knot sticking up. So all I do is I just use some hot glue and glue those little extra edges to the inside of it. And then I'm just going to take some little eyelash lace and kind of stuff it inside of it. And I have some little tiny pink pumpkins that I stuffed inside of it. Okay, my next piece is double-sided, which is something I'm known for if you've watched my channel before. So if you'll look up in the top left-hand corner, this is one of those little wood pieces that you can get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and it's about 4 inches by 4 inches. So with this little pumpkin, I bought it at the Dollar Tree, and I took a serrated knife and I cut it in half. And that was pretty messy. And then I painted it with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. And once it dried, I'm using liquid patina to put on different pieces of that napkin that I used in my previous project with the pink pumpkins on it. Now, because it's pretty small and it's only half of it, then you don't need to put a whole bunch on it. Now, this is the top side of that little wood piece. And originally I had painted it with pink, but I decided to go back and paint it with white because I'm going to be decoupaging a piece of rice paper onto it. And once again, I'm using the liquid patina. So a lot of times when you decoupage, you will go ahead and tear something and then decoupage it on. But because I didn't want to have to measure anything, all I did was I put the liquid patina on it in just the top part, and then I laid that piece of rice paper down and stuck that top part, and then I pull it up and I finish putting it down with liquid patina. And so I'm just taking some saran wrap and pushing that down. And this is just one of those little finger sanders, and after it dries, I just sand off the edge. Now this is part of that new IOD Juliette mold, and it's this mold that has this huge array of roses on it that actually match part of that piece of the rice paper. But you can use the whole part of it, but I'm just using one little corner of it. And I'm using the DOS air dry clay. And I don't really know exactly what parts are going to end up being what I use, but I just go ahead and put a whole bunch in that one little corner, and then I kind of pick off the little parts once I pull it out. And then I'm going to be adding it to the top of that rice paper. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm using the Tite Bond glue. And this is one of those little biscuit scrapers that you might use, but I like it because it's something you can slide up underneath, something that you just molded, and it keeps it from tearing, especially when there's a lot of little parts to it. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention was because there are little pieces to it, I set it off to the side for just a little bit for it to kind of set up before I actually took it out of the mold. And another thing that you can do is just put it up in the freezer for just a little bit, and it kind of gets dry around the edges, and it's easier to take out of the mold and have less likely to have the little pieces part fall off. And then I'm just gluing it to the little corner of that rice paper. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to paint it with white, and then I put gold gilding wax on it. Now on the back side of that little wood piece, that's where I'm going to put my little decoupage pumpkin. So currently it's just kind of sitting in there until I can decide where I'm going to decoupage some little things that I stamped. And that's the IOD Alphabellies, and it's just got little different pieces, and I just stamped a whole bunch of them onto just a napkin with IOD stone gray ink. And I kind of laid them out and determined which ones I was going to use. And then I'm just using liquid patina to glue those in. Then what I've done with the styrofoam now is I've used that same serrated knife and on the back side of it, and I've kind of made a little indentation. And part of that little Baubles mold that's double-sided, I'm going to use that as the stem of this little pumpkin. Now, if I had tried to put it in there and use hot glue, it would have been a really big mess because hot glue and styrofoam doesn't go together. So I've kind of made a little indentation, and then I'm using tight bond glue and gluing it in there because it sets up so quick. And then one of the things that I do before I then lay it back into that little piece of wood is I actually take some tight bond glue and kind of spread it all over the back with my little silicone stick, because it's so messy, and whatever that stuff is made out of, it's these just little pieces that go flying everywhere. So I decided before I let all of that set up, I would just go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the back of it, and it just makes it not so messy. So on one side I have the rice paper, and on the other side I've got the pumpkin. And now this is just one of those little glass candlesticks that you can get at the Dollar Tree, and I just glued it on, and you've got a double-sided piece of decor. Now if you're liking this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, why don't you go ahead and do that and be a part of our family. Now this is one of those Zori molds, and I'll make sure to link it in the description box, and it's called Owl Tails. Now I'm using that Form Flex compound, and it's supposed to be flexible. So I have actually made this up a while back because I knew I was going to be using it for fall decor. And this is just a little thrifted frame that I found, and I turned it over on the back side. And this is just some blue plaid scrapbook paper that I got at Hobby Lobby. And so on the back side of it, I'm just putting it on with liquid patina. But because the scrapbook paper is a little bit thicker, I just use that brayer to put it on really good. And then once I get it on, then I'm going to use tight bond glue to glue that little mold that had the owl. And the little frame, I actually painted it with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, and then put some voodoo gel stain on it to antique it. And what I didn't tape was that I painted the owl, the Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, and I used the voodoo gel stain on top of it to bring out all the details, because it is beautiful. And I'm just putting it on with tight bond glue. I can't wait for you to see it. Look at that. I hope you can see it really well, but it is beautiful. And I really like it. I think this might actually be my favorite project today. I just love these Zori molds because there's so much detail to them. And I can't wait for you to see the finished project up close. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? I really like it a lot. Now, this is a pumpkin, and I think I actually bought it on Hobby Lobby last year after fall was over, when it gets marked down pretty low, and I'm just painting it. I think it was with White Swan. Now, this is a napkin, and I don't know how to describe it. It might be kind of boho, and I found it at that store called Tuesday Morning, which I think they've all closed now. And it's just something I've had in my stash because I like the colors of it. I think it's really perfect for fall because it's kind of a bluish teal. And I'm just going to be decoupaging this napkin onto this pumpkin. And I wouldn't say that the design is really a flower. I really can't tell you what it is, but I just like the effect of it. Now, one of the things about my video today is I'm using fall decor, but I'm using it in sort of unconventional colors. And that's what I like about fall is I like just pumpkins that are different colors. And it kind of can match your decor. They don't all have to be orange. And I know last year, one of the pumpkins I made had purple transfers on it. And this is a little piece of lace that I stuck in that little hole, and I put a ribbon on it, and there's another bauble mold that I painted, and I used voodoo gel stain on it. Isn't that pretty? Now, this is another double-sided project. This is another one of those little wood squares, and this time, instead of pulling out little different pieces of a napkin, it's kind of whimsical, then I just decoupaged the whole thing on there. And this is part of that Alphabellies stamp, and I'm using Stays On brown ink, and I'm putting it all around the edge to kind of frame it out. And it's got like little foxes and little deer and little owls, and I just like the colors of it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm using the Tim Holtz little ink that I'm kind of distressing around the edges. Now, on the back side, I'm using that Alphabellies stamp, and I'm going around and stamping the edge of it to kind of frame out the other side of it. And I'm just using the brown Stays On ink to go around it. And this is a new transfer that I got from Maika Daughters, and it's called Classic Peach, and it's made by Redesign with Prima. And I love the colors of it. And it's those fall colors that, you know, are the rust and the really pretty greens and browns and the off-white. And this is just a transfer that I'm putting on the inside of it. Now, this is the other side of that little styrofoam napkin, and I painted it with Rust-Oleum Serenity Blue paint. And I'm just decoupaging on one of the little owls from that napkin and some of the little brown stems. And I'm also going to glue that on that back side of it on the inside. And I'm going to be using another bauble mold. So I really like the way that you can use that bauble mold in so many ways. And so I'm just kind of gluing that to the side, and I use some Spanish moss up at the top to kind of make it look a little bit more rustic, but it's kind of whimsical. And then I put like a little ribbon up there, and I'm hot gluing it to this little stand. It's kind of a little Greek stand, or you could add it to a candlestick, but it's kind of top heavy, so you're going to want to attach it to something if you're going to use it. And it's not heavy, it's just that because that pumpkin is on the outside, it just makes it kind of cumbersome. Now, this is another little toilet paper roll, and this is more of a fall napkin. It's really pretty. And then I'm just using a little piece of crocheted lace that I got at the thrift shop. And I realized that somebody took a lot of time to crochet this, and I really appreciate that they did, but for some reason, somebody donated it to the thrift shop, and I like it because it's kind of ruffled, and it looks pretty down at the bottom. Now I'm going to punch holes in it, but I used some rusty wire to make a hanger, and then I put a little tie on the side up at the top. And then I'm going to put some Spanish moss in it. And I'm going to put some little teeny tiny little orange pumpkins in it. But, you know, this could also be used like as a gift card. Okay, friends. Here are the final products all put together in a vignette. And it's just sort of non-traditional fall decor, and I tend to be non-traditional, and I just like all of it. So I know that it's really hot outside right now, but if you have a vendor booth, you know that you've got to start thinking early about the different seasons, and you don't want it to kind of slip up on you and not have anything ready for your booth. So I hope you liked the projects today. Make sure to leave me a comment and tell me which one was your favorite today. But I love that little owl, and I'm going to have a hard time letting that one go. And there's some of those little teeny orange pumpkins that I found. I think at one point it was potpourri, but it doesn't smell that way anymore. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I love all the sweet comments that you add to my videos. It just makes me feel really appreciated, and I enjoy making the videos. And so leave me a comment, tell me which one's your favorite, and tell me, when are you going to start decorating for fall? Now, I'm not going to start decorating until after school starts back, but I do like to go ahead and have things made. So make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you have a good rest of the week. And I'll see you soon.